stop all this. This is what I do. This is on Planet Toxin. Is that whoever sent that tweet, threw that banana, did whatever at that level, and it's racial harassment or whatever, they should be made to go and sit in a room with the player and his family. Whether that family is his wife, his mum and dad, his two little daughters or two little sons at 7-year-old, and say, right, go on then, mate, we're all here together now. Why did you call me a black whatever, or why did you call me a Irish whatever, or why did you go on, just explain. My mum and dad are here with me, or my girlfriend, or my two little kids. Just talk me through why you did that. If you had to face that level of shame, not being on social media or for the media, you had to go in a room as a grown adult. Now, imagine me as a 50-year-old man, I'm going to sit across from a plane going, one of his kids sat on his knee, and his mum and his girlfriend sat outside him going, yeah, well, I did call you this, and yeah, I did send you that, and yeah, it'd be absolute. To a normal human being, it'd be mortifying. And to me, the only way to do it is to shame people. And I think the best way to shame them is you have to face up for what you've said.
Very well, welcome to Capital Sports 3.0 this evening. And of course, that last little wonder is when you try to do something on TV, it doesn't come off. You basically fail, and also you end up kneecapping yourself. So there you go. When you're going to celebrate, make sure that you do it the right way. Don't go at a very, very inverted angle into the grass, because you will crack your knees. Bring us straight away to my co-hosts, Isol Cody and Andrew Flint. A very warm welcome to you as well. Okay, Andrew, just at the start of that little intro, you were using your glasses to, kind of express concern.
It's become my signature move of utter dismay and, losing patience, I think. But yeah, we tend to cover topics that make me raise my glasses.
Well, listen, right away, I'm going to just run through a couple of small things I think are interesting for us, and something that we need to definitely need to cover, because, of course, we've seen the continuing fallout from the Chinese swimmers we discussed last week, of course, with Andrew. And then when people start to look at it, about how this is all coming about and how the holier than thou, well, you CAD have kind of jumped in a little bit. You USADA have definitely gone into it. But if you look, for example, Olympics in 2016, 38 US athletes from the team had TUEs. That's, of course, therapeutic use exemptions. Okay, that means that they can dope whatever they need to dope with. Of them, 10 won medals. Okay, so that's a really good strike rate for that. It is just over 25%. 48 UK athletes had TUEs, 14 of them won medals. Okay, so when we're talking about clean sports, it doesn't really go around. Isol, why are we singling out the Chinese? We know they dope, but why is the whole world, well, not the whole world, but certain countries saying China, China, China?
I suppose there's a multitude of factors. The first one is the volume and the fact that they're all involved in one sport, because obviously it becomes very obviously a systematic doping or a doping program issue. The other difficulty we have here is, as we all know from the recent case in Russia, we have a medication that is a heart medication. So, and none of these people, if they're suggesting contamination, you have to query, firstly, how they all managed to get contaminated, how no one else in the same facility that was staying in the hotel was contaminated, how they were contaminated in a hotel, and how this medication got into their systems. So all those queries make it obviously, it's a very clear issue of something is happening here in the background. So let's not suggest this is a contamination issue. The timing issue as well. I think it galls people, and unfortunately, the fact that it was the Chinese probably does, to an extent, add to it, in the sense of there was a huge gap and lapse in the ability to go into different countries and test during COVID. We all know where COVID originated, and I know that seems silly and petty, because obviously it isn't the fault of the Chinese. But there is this mentality where you're kind of going, so you guys took this as an opportunity to dope, and just because an amount in your system is small doesn't mean you haven't been doping for an extended period or timing it well. And I think when it comes into one sport, one group of athletes in particular, then it's like cycling. People look at it and go, teams are doping. And there's something really, I think it's worse than thinking one individual is bad, because you also are going, you're not blaming necessarily all of the athletes, but you're going, the culture in this is rotten. We saw what that did to cycling when they had the revival tour. I'm not going to do my bad French accent, but we've seen what systematic doping in a sport does to a sport. And we understand it brings a level of just real distrust and dislike. We have seen prior to this that athletes, other swimmers have had issues with, in particular, male Chinese swimmer in the past. So there have been difficulties in that area, and suspicion that, you know, they have maybe had a light touch in terms of bans or in terms of enforcement.
Same with the Americans. I mean, like,
yeah,
American swimmers have failed for this drug as well.
It's across the board, but I think there is something particularly galling when you think of the timing, when you think of the suggestion of it being anything other than systematic doping is just a bit, it sticks in the throat. I also think, yes, every nation is great to pile on when these things happen, but I think it's maybe because of the fact that we're in an Olympic year as well. It's just a particular, when these stories come out so close to an Olympics, it's a great opportunity for everyone to jump on it. And we're like, when you look at, like, the UK are always great to criticise, and like all you can think of immediately was the cycling in the UK, the cleanest Olympics in the UK, like, you know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's like, 2012, as you said, has turned out to be the dirtiest ever Olympics, and I mean, they only tested a certain amount of them as well. We do know a lot of the tests that were taken, the samples that were taken. We even know the batches that were taken. We even know the athletes, well, by the numbers, we know the athletes who were tested, what sports and so on. They were stored in basically a refrigeration truck with people's sandwiches and food, and they all got spoiled. Not the sandwich and food, but the samples, because they were left out in the sun. I mean, it's a
choice about what you want the result to be.
Well, that's it. And it is funny because, as was told to us on Capitalist Force by a former UCAD doping supremo, is that most of the samples, I think it's 1/3 of the samples that were there were all from UK athletes. They were collected, brought together, and put in there, and in all sports. So it seemed very, very coincidental.
Let's not overlook the fact that what these athletes have done is, there's no question that this is systematic and throughout that team, but it may be across other teams as well, and other sports, in the sense of it may be similar to what happened in Russia, because let's not pretend it wasn't a team-wide national doping program, state-sponsored doping, but I think we'd be very naive to think that there wasn't something very similar happening in the East.
I think it's all over. I think if we look at it, China still aren't, even with the huge amount of athletes that they have and the huge amount of the population that they have, they're still not topping the medals table. They're still not topping the swimming medals table. They're still being outstripped by America. And we do know.
But I don't think we can think every gold medal or every bronze or silver is someone who is doping. But I think if you're someone who could come in 7th and you're coming in with a bronze, then you're doing something to bridge that gap. So it's not necessarily, gold isn't necessarily, I would hate if we get to a point where we have to say, oh, you got a medal, you must be doping, because there are those phenomenal athletes out there. I actually think more of the pressure comes from people trying to get to that level who are that bit further down, because once you get up to the top or elite level, that's where the money is. So if you're coming in 10th and everything.
This is where I'm going to throw this, and I'll bring it across into Andrew in a moment. You get to the top, like in tennis, you break into the top 50. You have to keep moving up, but you have to stay in the top 50. So that means you have to keep winning matches on a regular basis in different countries, different surfaces, different climates, pushing yourself, not just playing matches, but training as well, and playing doubles as well as a singles player. So you need to take something to move up and stay up. And that's the whole thing. People can be top, but how do they stay at the top? Because you can only push your body so far before it needs something to help it out.
Well, I disagree, because I think if we start thinking that everyone who's at the top is doping, what's the point in watching sports then? Why are you bothering? It's not, I don't think every athlete who's at the top, I think there are athletes who understand when they've reached their limit, when to walk away from the sport. I also think a great example, if you ever want to think about athletes who are unlikely to be doing anything, if you ever see when you have, in particular, good example for me is there's a UFC fighter, Leon Edwards. And one of the times he was fighting, I think it was Salt Lake City or something like that, he was totally, he was so easily gassed and he managed to get through it. But it was the fact that he was at an altitude he wasn't used to. So he was clearly not going, oh, do you know what I'll do to keep up here? You could see the effect that it being in, just when you say like being in different environments, being on different surfaces, well, being in a different altitude, he wasn't at the same level. You see it with rugby players going to South Africa, with the Irish teams going over. I think you would have seen it with the Irish players, the Irish rugby team when they went to Japan. Different climate, different effect, and they struggle. And that kind of, you don't want to take that as an endorsement that, oh, they're not doing anything. But it's a fairly good marker that if they're struggling when the conditions aren't exactly what they're used to, then it's probably because their bodies aren't just adapting. It's your bodies aren't in a position to adapt.
Andrew, on that, do you agree with Iso that basically we can watch sports and watch the top people and say they're all clean?
Well, I think we're at a very awkward stage of global sport, full stop, really. I mean, we've seen some rather ludicrous suggestions. Well, I say ludicrous. I mean, the longer this all goes on, the less ludicrous it will become. But suggestions that, why don't we just have a full-on doping games? Because at least then it technically is leveling the playing field. I mean, that's just putting lives at risk. But I don't know. I mean, look, I mean, I actually am a strong believer. Every time you mention the word doping, it instantly brings up images of the most horrific levels of cheating and health and criminal espionage or whatever. But we've got to remember, like Issa was saying, the point she was making, I think, or at least partly related to it, is to get into the top 50 or of, you know, that level of sport, if you're talking about tennis players and ranking systems, or to be get a professional contract at a rugby club or football club, you've got to be bloody good anyway. There's no point doping if you're my level of football. It won't get you anywhere. I might run a little bit longer, but you've got to actually do something whilst you're running. You've got to be clever enough, smart enough. So, I mean, it's impossible. We'll never, ever know. I actually genuinely do. I don't think we're ever going to have completely clean sport. We'll never know exactly how much everybody has doped in different sports and use different advantages. Everybody will always permanently look for a way to get an edge, whatever that edge is. But I don't mean this as a way to justify it at all. But if you're even being noticed for doping, you deserve some credit for being good enough to be at a level where doping is going to make the slightest difference. But comparing it, the nature of what sport should be, competing, you simply can't judge. You won't be able, I don't think we'll ever be able to completely honestly judge who is genuinely won a healthy competition in what sport is supposed to be. Sport is different now. It's not the same thing.
No, I can't. Yeah, Ethan, sorry, I did slightly misrepresent you. That said it like, you know, that they're not all clean, but they're not all dirty. So yeah, okay. There's a you're a lawyer, so it's just there's a nuance.
Yeah, no. I think it's probably there's wearing more dirty athletes. You can actually, Andrew, if you want to watch the enhanced games, we'll get to see them all doing whatever they want.
Look, it is one of those things people say, just let them dope off their heads. But again, I always go back.
We watch sports because we care about people.
Yeah, and also it's also with kids. Like I always say this: like if an adult or a parent looks at a kid and says they have to dope to move up that level, they have to use, you know, steroids, you have to use creatine when they're 16, 17, 18 years of age. If they need to go push their body so hard, then it's stopped. Now, at the other side of it, people are complaining about the NFL and brain injuries and so on. Again, I grew up, you know, boxing. I played rugby, where there are, you know, obviously brain injuries in both and like severe injuries in both. If you're an adult, you make a choice, and you make a choice to do it. But if you want to be clean, you're not making a choice to go and get someone who's doping. So that's the difference. But even if all these people who say, okay, it's going to be completely clean, and you test everyone all the time, someone will still take that advantage. It's like it's human nature.
It's like people will always cheat in exams, no matter what you put in. Like,
wait, hold on. Is this an admission?
No. You will always have people who cheat in exams. So, like, even when
I didn't cheat.
No, but as in, okay, wait for the
Andrew, did you cheat?
I have no comment. My mother might be watching, so I can't say.
I find it funny that when you think of, so let's say you hear these stories and like about college exams and the Irish state exams, where despite the fact that you're in a room where everyone can see everything you're doing, there are people who go in and still cheat. And it's like, where, like, and
how though?
like, it must be like the brains you must have to be able to do that. Apply it to bloody studying and you'll be fine. It's the concept that's the bit about doping. There are two things that really, really go on me. There's obviously the long-term duty of care to athletes. So when there's state-sponsored doping, that is just like you were taking a risk. But also when you talk there a minute ago, Andrew, or Alan even, about kids and like I suppose it's been discussed in the past about young underage rugby players and the idea of doping to get you ahead in terms of progression towards national or professional teams. But the minute you have parents, coaches, and those who are meant to be responsible for underage athletes encouraging or assisting in doping, you're essentially teaching them to cheat for life, and you're putting them on a course that they can't get back from. There's no.
Listen, now, I know I discussed this before, Andrew, so I'll let you come in just 1 second. Former classmate of mine from UCD, his son, this is a good few years ago now, I think it was 2018, would be 2018. And of course, he knew that I was working in sports nutrition, working in sports, coaching as well. So I met him at the Blanchard Shopping Centre, the over car park. Anyway, it doesn't matter, Easton knows where it is. But so I went to the shopping centre and we had a chat. And we're standing there talking. His son, was playing junior cup rugby, so it's like kind of the early age group, like up to 16, was told that he had to put on. I always messed this up because I was so shocked at the time. I couldn't remember if it was like 10 pounds or 10 kilos, but it was 10 kilos that he had to put on over the summer, and had been given like all these tubs of mass gainer to put it on. Now he's a big kid. Mom's big, dad's big, as in like they're tall, they're strong, like. But I was in shock when they're like, this is what they have to, like, that he was being told. And I just turned around and said, I wouldn't let him do it. It's like, why? And I said to him, look, this is going to damage his health. He should still be kind of, just relaxing because his body's, he's still growing. And I knew he was still growing. Like, he was like half a head shorter than his dad, but he's going to be taller than his dad. He is now taller than his dad. Now his dad fed out of me and just, we've been in contact, Facebook, Twitter and a whole lot. Then he just like didn't want to contact me. Even he blocked me. And I was like, because of a conversation inside the shopping centre. Afterwards, like a good while afterwards, and we kind of discussed again, went for a pint, and I went back home and said like, yeah, he understood where I was coming from. And this is the thing, is he sort of said like, I mean, would you want someone like your own kids or someone else's kids to have to dope if they have to know? And again, a lot of tennis players I've worked with, I would see when it got to the moment, said, no, I need to do something to get to a higher level, to stay at the higher level. I'm like, no, don't. And we have, like, my former companies, we broke contracts with players. It cost us money, but we broke contracts, said, no, we're not doing it. Because if you go to coach training with that person, you're done. Andrew, sorry, go to finish up with you on this one.
Well, I don't want to add too much, but it actually ties in with exactly it moves on from the point you've just made. It occurs to me that, look, people dope for a reason. What is the motivation? Because the utter obsession, thirst, desperation to get ahead. I think almost we have brushed over the root cause of all of this, which is the insane pressure put on every single age level of every single sport to succeed. My daughters both go to swimming lessons and they enter competitions, which are great fun. They swim with their friends. But I mean, it doesn't concern me yet. And I'm saying yet. They used to have one lesson 3 times a week. Then the coach said, okay, we're now going to have double lessons. I mean, we're talking like 45 minutes. Now it's an hour and a half. Then it moved up to 3 lessons. I was like, okay, fine. And every lesson, Sophia's fairly tired, but she likes it because she's with her friends. Then they started saying, okay, I think we need to add a gym session at 10 o'clock on a Friday night. I am not joking. That was the suggestion that came up. And I thought, well, hang on. I am putting my blooming foot down here. This is getting ridiculous. Once it goes beyond fun, you've moved up a level to where the choice either becomes you push your body through limits in a technically clean sense, but you're breaking your body down, or mentally breaking yourself down, given the pressure you're putting yourself under, or you turn to doping. I mean, doping is the point I'm trying to make is, I think doping is just simply one of two avenues that sports people, and I mean of all ages, are forced into. It just happens to be one that has laws against specific substances which aren't necessarily followed. But where does that come from initially? Well, okay, maybe a controversial point, but can you honestly tell me, and probably you can, but can you honestly tell me all forms of doping are necessarily completely worse than the physical strain you put bodies that are just not ready for it through, or the mental strain you put on them? They're all as bad as each other. The problem is, there never was ever going to be a solution for this because of the nature of sport. It was always going to become wildly popular, global, accessible, watched, and therefore the only route it was going to go down was it was going to become more important, more money was going to get involved with it, more pressure. It was always going to end up this way. So we can cry about doping as much as we want, and it is right to do that. We can cry about putting children under pressure as much as we want, but what did we think the solution was going to be? What did we think the reality could have been? It was never going to be any different.
Look, it is one of those things where we all know, like the old way to, I remember as a kid, even like under 10s, getting football, under 10s hurling. And at the start of the season, I mean, start of the training session, you'd run laps around the field. Laps, and you sprints, and then you do your skills. And my dad turned it all around and said, no, work with the ball, work with the hurl. Like he was hurling coach, especially, and getting football coach. And he worked with the ball. So basically that you had that constant contact. And all his teams did really well. But people would say, oh, no, they're not fit, they're not good. But his teams were fitter and stronger and more skilled than other teams simply because they work with the ball nonstop. They're going on, going. One thing you said, like kids and adults as well. Went to the gym yesterday with Tim. Both enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Like working it. Like seeing him working it. It's good fun. See people in there who are extremely unhealthy as how they work out. So this isn't about you going to a hotel with Brian. That's nothing to do with this. This is a separate thing, right? Because no. Let me finish. I'll explain why. You see people who are in there. Are they enjoying it? I think they could be. Is it all they know how to do for some of them? The ones who are, built up a bodybuilders, yeah, possibly, but why not? They're enjoying it. They've made that choice. But the people who are there, and I've got friends who do it here, a friend of mine in Germany who was training, no doping, nothing, but training, and getting a lot of fun out of it. It was actually, getting like in good shape and getting a thrill from the whole thing. Kept pushing, didn't let her body relax, recover, and her mind. And she ended up falling into depression because she had an injury. She couldn't go to the gym and just like collapsed in herself. And she kept saying, "Oh, like when I'm physically active, it's good for me." And I was like, "Yeah, but you need to get a balance." And that's the whole thing. If you're pushing kids need sleep, kids need rest, humans need sleep, humans need rest. If you push your body beyond, micro injuries come along, and that's the killer. Micro injuries. That's how you get muscles. That's how you get the definition. You're tearing muscles. You're tearing muscles to make them look bigger. People using creatine. It's basically just like padding out muscles, but then when you take it away, they go away, and it's not overly healthy, especially in the processed form, I should say. So when I said about like going to the hotel, you can explain that. That's just because we go to a hotel, you book. Same with me. When I go,
we literally were looking and seeing what gyms there were, but it's also a case of you're also balancing out the two, where you're going, I'll be out of routine. It's like in terms of things like when you go away. Yes, you go out and you get your steps in and things like that, but you're also sitting around a lot more in lots of other capacities. So it's kind of balancing the two. And obviously we're very active when we have the dogs. So it's kind of strange when we're away from them because you're trying to balance that back in to kind of keep,
but it's
you're keeping yourself on a balance thing. But again, as you rightly said, look, the more you're kind of going out and burning yourself out, there's a balance between knowing what's important and all that. There's also a balance where people don't appreciate and don't understand. Like, obviously, we're talking about professional athletes, but for your day-to-day people, they don't understand that rest, recovery, proper nutrition is as vitally important.
And look, I always come back to this. It was told to me by Roddy Collins that the biggest difference between professionals and semi-professionals is recovery. And that's the whole thing. Because pros they train, they go home, and then they rest. When they go to a snooker hall, betting shop, whatever it is, but they rest, they get taken care of. Guys who then have to go to the office or go to school, go to college, and we've seen, you can understand this in Ireland, where and in every country is, but in Ireland it's particularly febrile, I should say, or febrile, where basically a good soccer player, a good Gaelic footballer, a good hurler, a good rugby player, or maybe tennis player, they overlap 2-3 different sports. And even though they're trying to separate that out, they end up pushing. Every sport wants this good athlete, and the kid gets burnt out. So you've got these superstars, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years of age. By 18, they basically, their bodies are broken. But again, it has improved, but now we've moved towards single sports athletes. I mean, Isel, how many sports did you play growing up in Tip?
Tennis, golf, hurling.
Need more than one hand, I know that for sure.
Yeah, I'm upwards. Like I would have been doing 8 or 9 sports at various times, but like even in school alone, I would like when I was in secondary school, which is usually where most girls drop out of sports. I was actually discussing this recently. When I was in secondary school, I was doing more than 5, and that was like a lot of it, not like half-heartedly doing anything.
Okay, Andrew.
I mean, secondary, that's late teens up.
Yeah, that's that. As you said, that's when 14, 15,
so was that simultaneously? When you say you were playing 5 sports, was that at the same time or same seasons, or did
same seasons? The time of year might have differed, but in a given year.
Yeah,
that's
so did you play camogie?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so camogie that's a summer sport. So you'd have this there'd be many summer sports. So then
It was also, there was a mandatory level to sport because I was in a boarding school. We would have played like a lot of our, like whatever free time you had, you were playing sport, or else you had to do another instrument, and I am not musically gifted.
Andrew had to say,
so like, I'll sign up for everything. I'm like, hi, you're planning on doing tiddlywinks? I am there.
Andrew, well, you went to boarding school as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically exactly the same. We were playing sport non-stop, casually organised a lot, but it was very much split into seasons. I think we had 3 terms, and it was very much football winter, rugby spring, and then cricket in summer. And in the evenings, in the weekends, we were just non-stop outside on the pitches, doing whatever. I mean, we may have dabbled in the odd. They always tried to get us to branch out into other sports, but it was very much divided. And now I think back, I'm actually grateful for this. We did focus pretty much. You picked a sport per term that was your main focus, and we didn't overlap too much. And I guess I should be more grateful than I realised it probably was at the time, because it was enjoyable. That's the key point. It was really, really enjoyable.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a great athlete, but I'm quite tall, and I played rugby with my best friend, and I were in the second row, and we had the third 15, the lowest level of our sixth form. But we won a few games. We won one game 3-0 with a drop goal in the last minute on the mud. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. It was not a good sport, but we enjoyed it, and that was the key.
Okay, we're going to move on very quickly. We'll go straight away into the English Premier League, something that is coming up, of course. Come to the end of the season. It's not really, look, we said it quite a while ago. It was Man City going to win it. I think we're going to be proved correct. Fortunately, unfortunately, I do not know. But here is how it stands right now. So as you can see, we've got a pretty, well, how do you say? It's a pretty straightforward one where Arsenal are atop at the moment. They are a point takers. Man City won today, beat Nottingham Forest. They have a game in hand. They will win that. Liverpool are just gone, shot. They are done. There's a lot of Reds fans really upset. Aston Villa doing very well, hanging in there, and it looks like they will be in Champions League football. Spurs, okay, regardless of the situation today with Arsenal, gave a good rattle. They could have, should have won it. We're unfortunate. Man United, of course, stumbling a little bit there in 6th place. Down the bottom of the table, it is getting a little bit more interesting. Of course, Sheffield United, they are gone. That's done and dusted. The fight now is between Forest, Luton, and Burnley. I'm going to ask straight away the burning question, of course, that we all need to answer is, which of those two are going to go down in the bottom, Eastfield Cody?
Luton and Burnley.
Why?
I think Forest just have a bit more overall. Now let's ignore today's result, because one of the things when I was watching the Spurs match earlier, they were mentioning is the last time Arsenal had conceded, and they're referencing Forest, and you kind of go, okay, do I think Burnley have had a season that would deserve, or that they would benefit from staying up to be the whipping boy again for next season? I don't think they've developed enough. I just don't think they can keep up. And I think there's a difference when a team comes up and you go, oh, they were close enough. You know, they're almost at that level. I think it's too much of a gap. I think Forest have the potential to maybe make a better fist of it next season, which I know isn't, again, I'm trying not to use any sort of recency bias in terms of today's result, but yeah, I just think Forest have a bit more to offer to the Premier League, which sounds silly because they're not going to be racing up the table. Personally, if I thought anyone should be relegated, I wouldn't be including those two. I'd be sending Everton and City straight out of the league and leave the rest of them in it. But look, we are where we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Andrew, which of the two are going out for you?
I agree with what Easel's saying. Nottingham Forest really should have the potential to be doing a lot better, but actually I think they might go down. They're whining about the VAR decisions and refereeing decisions recently. I think it's just putting a bit of desperation on the mood around the club at the moment. But also, if we just look at the very basics of what the fixtures are left, that last day fixture, I'd forgotten it was the last day, but Burnley at home to Nottingham Forest. Burnley looks, I mean, okay, it's not hard to look good against Manchester United at the moment, but they looked like they had a simple game plan, which it looks like it's taken Vincent Kompany too long to get together. But they are good at breaking forward. They're an energetic side. Forest are bloated. They need to shift a lot of that squad, a lot of focusing on off-field activities, which is understandable given the points deduction that they had. I just get a feeling that last day is going to be absolutely crucial. Luton as well, I've been disappointed with their recent form, but I still think they have... I would love to see them put their hat in the ring to get out of trouble too, but I don't know. It's going to be difficult for them. But Burnley, I think, might just about edge out last day.
I actually think it's interesting that usually at this end of the season, like there's kind of, it's all the madness of who's in and out of the relegation zone, and up at the top, it's actually more like who's in madness of like second, third, fourth, fifth. That seems more of a basket case end of the spectrum than the bottom of the table, if that makes any sense. It's just like, who would have thought Liverpool and that Everton would be the ones to really, like, I know we all saw them losing it, obviously not in the Premier League, but in terms of with Atalanta, you were kind of like, is this taking a bit of a, like the first match against them as opposed to the second fixture? You're like, things might be turning in their season. But I don't think anyone saw the Everton result.
No, God, I mean, Everton were excellent.
I don't think
like,
Dyche saw the Everton result coming.
Yeah,
I mean, if Dominic Calvert-Lewin manages to score, you know things are really going upside down in the universe.
Listen, we said it a few weeks ago, and I mentioned, I should put it on Twitter. One of the big issues that Liverpool have been hit by, and it started with discussions in January and ended the end of February, start of March, was that Pepe Linders, the assistant at Jurgen Klopp, was told he will not be stepping into Klopp's shoes and that he will not be kept on no matter what. He has another 2 years in his contract, 2.5 years, I think it is, 2.5 years. He will not be kept on and he'll be like basically removed from the club. He was told he's being paid off. He also then signed an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, that he would have to leave as well. He's basically down tools. He's refused sometimes to come into work. He basically, they can't fire him because if they fire him without cause, it breaks the fire or the agreements to sort of like tear up contracts, and it would then tear up his NDA agreement. So basically, Liverpool don't want that. So this is a huge issue because there's also a lot of people who Klopp in the last couple of years has brought in from Borussia Dortmund, for example, different sports specialists. They're all being kicked out. They're now speaking. They're going to talk about bringing in this coach from Holland. That a lot of Liverpool fans go, "Who's this coach from Holland?" I don't think it makes a difference. I think just Liverpool are they're hemorrhaging money. They're in big trouble, and they need to try and sell. And getting Klopp off the books is one way to do it. And of course, Linders as well. He agreed to, I think, his first 75% of his overall salary owed to leave. So again, this is something that it's been discussed, talked about. A lot of journalists know, but they're kind of worried to sort of put it about because it will show that they're kind of, dissing Liverpool. Very quickly on the Isad, I know you have to. Yeah, you need to start moving it out. On the same thing with matches. Okay, so at the top of the table, we see how many matches are left to go. We'll forget about this current one here, the 36th one, of course, because the big ones at the top of the table, of course, Arsenal, Bournemouth should be winning that. You've got Man City and Wolves, again, they should be winning that. And Liverpool and Tottenham could be a difficult evening in the next Sunday in Easton's household. A week on, Man City, Fulham. Again, you look at Man City to win that. You look at Arsenal. Ooh, this could be the killer. Man U, Ten Hag's second last game with the club third last game for the club, sorry, he's in the cup final as well, beating Arsenal. And then, of course, last year's season, Spurs could end up denying Man City the title. They won't, of course. And, of course, then Man City, West Ham. West Ham have a habit of breaking teams' hearts. They've done it to Manchester United before, but twice, but they don't think they'll do it. Okay, both just very, very quick. Who's going to win the league?
City.
We said City all along, and I'm not changing.
The only thing I would say is for a team that are not going to be getting anything this year, look, we might get into Europe. Fingers crossed. What a game today. What a bloody game. Spurs is the epitome of Spursiness. Spurs were the better team for the match and yet managed to lose. It's a real gift. And I think it's kind of I imagine, being a Coventry fan last weekend. You're the better team and you're not getting anywhere.
Isel, can I ask you a question? Because I don't know what it feels like to have a manager who is fun, has a clear idea and everything. Is it worth these agonising, seesawing defeats like this for the gung-ho attacking entertainment? Is it worth it? Is it a balance you are willing to strike to have what you have and not quite get to the very top?
It will be worth it if they stick with him. I think. It may not. Look, we're not going to be winning a league anytime soon. Let's be realistic. But it would be just great to kind of to give a bit of consistency to the team, to give them an opportunity to see how this actually plays out. Because when you're watching Spurs at the moment, I'm not watching them going, oh my God, what are they? There was a season with a manager who we both had in common at one stage. And wasn't he at a match in the Premier League last week? Jose.
Yeah.
But where you're watching a team and you're going, it actually became a chore to watch them. And in the same way, Man United became a chore when they were doing Park the Bus. So I'm enjoying the style of football at the moment. It kind of
I don't like smiles on your face. This is not. I was hoping you were going to say no. I wouldn't say this because
look, we're playing. It's disappointing. It's more heart wrenching at the end when you're losing a game. And you're going, but with 87 minutes. I was still thinking, we could bloody well do this. We could go 3-3, and that would really, really screw Arsenal. We didn't, but the possibility was there. It's the same way as the joy of it is in the chase. We're not winning, but we're getting close.
Well, look, all I can say is as a Dundalk fan, our team are bottom of the League of Ireland, and we've got our first win in 12 games. So this is a team who are playing in the Europa League and holding their own and beating foreign teams and holding their own against the might of St. Petersburg. Now they're all over, so you guys can smile and laugh. It sounds bad. One last little small one before we go. This, of course, it's a big mega fight that's coming in June, but this happened before. Andrew and I discussed this. Isel, this is your final thing for the evening.
He was good to me, and I sometimes had to remind him.
I landed one punch
once,
and he hit me with a door. Other than that, it was absolutely perfect.
That's true.
An amazing stunt team, Gareth Warden and Steve Brown, and they were phenomenal with us. They gave us free rein, and we've done a good job. For me, what was hard was it was time consuming. 18 hours on set, very little rest. It was strange to me, but the fight scenes, I was happy to give my input and my oar. And Jake, as I said, is a consummate professional. We've done a good job.
Isel, just 30 seconds on that video, and also, of course, just that video alone.
I don't know if I even want to give it 30 seconds. I think it's quite obvious watching that there is a man who is not passing any drug tests if they're going his way. No, I'm not. Actually, look, I'm not going to pass aspersions on him in that sense, because I also know he is someone who's been a combat athlete, which I get concerned when I see people twitchy. But irrespective of that, McGregor is coming back to the octagon, which is for a lot of journalists in UFC who cover fight sports. It's a big payday. It's a big event for them. It brings more eyeballs to the sport. And while I may have my own views on some of his conduct, I think in terms of even looking at him on his own Instagram in the last few weeks, it's the first time probably in maybe 2-3 years he's actually looked healthy. Like, it's amazing. He's shifted a huge amount of weight. He looks like someone, like he's been training the whole time or posting videos of him training the whole time. I kind of hope that if someone can dedicate themselves even for a few months to a sport, then hopefully it will do some good even for just that period and control their behavior for that period. He's a man with a family, so let's just hope he's focused on his sport. He's not out every night of the week, and that him being back in the sport will do some good for those people who work in the industry and cover it.
I think if it does good for him and his family as well, because he does, like, you know, we have discussed before, it is worrying seeing how he has degraded in terms just as a not even morality or his person, just his like physical demeanor, the whole lot in his face. It is worrying.
He looks like a different person in the last few weeks. I was actually shocked by it. Okay,
but I mean, he's going against Michael Chandler. Of course, Michael Chandler, he's won 23 of his 31 fights. Lost his last one, I think it was a couple of years ago. He has fought a couple of years. Lost to Dustin Poirier, of course, who had also fought Conor as well. On that, I'll ask Andrew first. Andrew, do you expect Conor to win?
I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters for him. He's brought, actually, what he sort of said about the responsibility or obligation that, whether he likes it or not, he has it to the organisation and so many people employed by it. Actually, it's a very important point, and I hope people do recognise it. What I'm getting around to is no is my short answer. I don't expect you to, because he thrives on that buzz around him. However well he's improved himself, and I do genuinely hope he has managed to clear himself up as much as possible. It's good to hear what he's sort of saying about how he looks in the last few weeks. We all know, even as an outsider, that's not enough on its own to win a combat sport. Okay. You know, it goes way beyond that. I don't expect him to, but I don't think that's what matters.
The only other point I would make is, like, as a boxing fan, for the last few weeks, everyone was going on about in the build-up to Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney, how deranged Ryan Garcia's behaviour seemed, and then he came in and won. So who knows? Maybe this is just the greatest, longest-running, most dedicated game of possum, all aimed at June UFC. What a man! What a plan!
That could be it. Before I let you go, we have one little small what happened next. You watch it for 5 seconds and then tell me what happens next. Here we go. What happens next, Cecil Cody, in 5 seconds?
Person approaching the keeper goes tumbling over, does a full somersault over them.
Very good, actually. No, but okay, go on, Andrew.
Oh God, I'm useless to this. It'll bounce off about 5 heads, hit the bar, and stop on the line, and then they'll forget that the ball was there, and somebody will end up roll it in.
Actually, that is so close to it. Watch what happens.
La portera.
You couldn't. Okay. All right. On that note, say thank you both, Lisa, Cody, Andrew Flynn. See you both next Sunday.
See you, boss.
Okay. And on that note, we will say goodbye for the evening and hope that, hope you enjoyed the show. And we'll see you, of course, same time, same place next week. So until then, take care of yourselves and each other.